CityCast Pittsburgh is supported by Fulton Commons. If you're looking for a gorgeous co-working space with lots of light and some truly wonderfully funky decor, check out Fulton Commons on the north side. The historic but very well renovated old school building is deep in the neighborhood by a park, tucked away but still super close to anywhere you want to be. They've got offices and common spaces. It's perfect for organizations or individuals, and they even have a shared food production kitchen on site. So there's lots of food-related events for their members. If this sounds like your dream co-working space, visit fultonpgh.org to request a tour. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, our region's hospitality industry, the hotels, the restaurants, the people who make our lives a little more fun, they have all been through the ringer the last 5 years. And for folks selling us alcohol, it's suddenly even weirder. President Trump keeps threatening to impose tariffs, aka taxes on, well, everything, but an enormous tax on European wine. Y'all, those are some of my favorites. Today, we are talking to a wine aficionado about what this could mean for all our favorite Pittsburgh spots. It's Thursday, July 17th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I am with food and wine journalist Akanksha Agarwal. Welcome to CityCast Pittsburgh.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with, the mechanism for injury, I guess, as our medical friends might put it, the tariffs. How do tariffs work? Because we, the consumer, pay them, and I think people often forget that part.
So absolutely. A tariff is essentially a tax that the government places on goods imported from another country. So, for example, if the US government is placing a tax on French wine, the French producer is not the one that's paying the tax, the US importer is. It's paid initially by the importer at the border, but that cost doesn't just sit there, right? Distributors will pay that extra cost. Restaurants that are buying that wine will pay that extra cost. And ultimately, consumers like you and me will pay that extra cost. So if there's a European wine you have really, really liked for years, that was, say, at $15 a bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's gone up by 30%. You might suddenly see that bottle not there, or you might see that bottle at 20%, you might see that bottle at 25%. And it's not just wine connoisseurs who are paying this cost, it's anyone who's really enjoying a bottle of wine on a Tuesday night.
Allegheny County drinks so much, we joke about it sometimes, right? Like for a few years now, we've drank more by volume than any other county in the Commonwealth. Do we have any sense of how much wine we're drinking? Because every figure I see lumps all the wines, the spirits, everything all together.
So no, we don't have a figure that isolates per capita, wine per se. But what we see beyond the numbers is kind of a real cultural shift. Especially when it comes to wine in the last 5 to 10 years, people have gotten a lot more curious. People are drinking wine with their takeout. People are drinking wine in book clubs. People are drinking wine a lot more casually. There's also this kind of natural wine boom, right? You see it in casual spots like Lorelei. You see wine bars like Allegheny Wine Mixer, Grapperia.
Mm-hmm.
You see this amazing local shop called 9 O'Clock Wines that's all about minimal, low intervention wines. So I feel overall people are more curious. They are wanting to explore more. They are wanting to explore different varietals. And there's been honestly a boom of wine bar openings in recent years.
Yeah, which we've talked about, I might say celebrated on this show, that
Right.
It felt like Pittsburgh was starting to get just a little hint of a wine culture, it's just a really difficult thing to do when you have a centralized system like we do with
Right.
the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. Most recently, you wrote about tariffs for Public Source. So tell us, what is the current tariff situation? Because I have seen so many numbers over the last few months.
Oh my God, this one is a roller coaster, and it's kind of complicated because it's ever changing. But earlier this year, there was a very real threat of that European wines could jump by 200%. This threat came from the US as a kind of retaliation for European digital services tax that were implied on American tech companies. The wine industry responded with strong opposition, and that extreme tariff never went into effect. But that doesn't really mean that things went back to normal, right?
Yeah.
Early April saw like a rollout of base tariffs, 10%. It was called Liberation Day tariffs that all across the board on any and all goods that are being imported.
Yeah. It was everything, any kind of good, which
Right.
included food and beverage.
Yeah, so if you saw people like panic buying laptops or cell phones, or in my case, like hoarding several cases of wine, that was in in anticipation of those tariffs that were to be rolled out.
Yeah. So we got the 200% number, which is just extraordinary. Then we get this 10% like base. So for everything. And that's again, EU. And now the number I keep seeing is 30%.
Yeah, so after a lot of industry pushback, or might we say industry panic, right now the number is at 30%. It's supposed to be rolled out on August 1st. But we've seen a lot of changes in this respect. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that number changes. We really don't know.
How is that not knowing part hitting our local restaurants, the bars, the wine shops? Like, to me, that seems so much more stressful than dealing with any hard reality, right? Like just like not being able to plan.
To me, honestly, it's the mental toll that's enormous. Because small businesses already kind of like operate on razor thin margins, like 3 to 5% pre-tax. And, now they have to hedge against price spikes, adjust their wine list kind of blindly, because we don't know which countries will be hit by what reciprocal tax finally, right?
Yeah.
And they have to make impossible decisions about how to stock, what to stock, and when to stock. We've kind of seen the toll up close. 9 O'Clock Wines, a really beloved local wine shop based in Lawrenceville, announced that it was shutting its doors come September, like early September. And a big part of it is the threat of tariffs and all the emotional economic volatility, right? But also another big part is the economic and financial exhaustion.
Yeah, I bet.
That they faced. They are kind of like operating in a system without any safety net. There used to be the pandemic era relief programs that no longer exist. It's really unsustainable.
I am so glad that you were able to connect with 9 O'Clock Wines. I took this question to a friend of mine, Deb Mortolero. She's a wine educator who runs Palate Partners and Soiree Partners and Dreadnought Wines. Deb is busy up on Liberty Avenue there. They buy wines from all over the world. And I was surprised because she's pretty chill about all of this, because she's betting that all of this lands closer to that 10% number. But just the logistics of how all of this has hit her supply chain, to me, is fascinating.
We have only actually received one invoice that has any tariff add-ons to it at all. One that I got last week, because we got a lot of warning about this. So the importers brought a lot of wine in before the tariffs even hit, because there was so much notice. So we're still working the way through wines that didn't have any tariffs put on them, in the warehouse. So I think in the coming months is when you're going to see what's happening. And I think that's why like August 1st is a potential date for the tariff to happen, because by August, people are going to have to start bringing more product in, right? My South Africa person, she has a boat on the water and she can't tell me what the price will be because she just doesn't know. And she's working with one of the biggest shippers in the world. And that's the frustrating part. That's the difficult part, is that there's just no consistency. And so it's more frustration than it is fear.
Deb said that she's in Palate Partners is in a little bit of a protected position because they are a bottle shop, but they operate in such a unique way. They're not like a 9 O'Clock or some other wine bars in this space. But they also don't sell any U.S. wine, like at all. So like that makes a huge difference. And, we've been talking about Europe, but like South Africa, for example, is getting hit with like potentially 30% tariffs too.
30%.
Yeah. And we don't have numbers yet for South American countries. So like, it's so many questions. So much is up in the air.
So, South America right now is just at that base rate of 10%, but, so much is subject to change. And circling back to 9 o'clock wines, they found themselves not being able to take advantage of like economies of scale, right? So I just want to say to people who are listening to the podcast right now that they are open until the beginning of September. And so go support them, go to one of their events, buy some of their bottles if you can. They've taken on a lot of debt to start their business, to keep the doors open. So support them in any way you can.
Yeah. I mean, and Deb, for her part, also said that she tipped her cap to 9 o'clock and what they've had to do, because there's a huge education component to all of this too. Like Pittsburghers, Pennsylvanians, like if you ask the average person where to buy wine, most of them would say the state store, because they are not aware that they can get it other places. So these little shops like 9 o'clock have had to like not only start a business, which is hard, but also like take on like teaching people that they're allowed to buy wine here. Like that's a whole other thing.
Today's show is brought to you by Liberty Magic, Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy theater dedicated to the art of elevating magic. They're currently presenting Lee Terbosic in Plain Slate, a show all about the art of deception. You may have seen Lee on TV shows like America's Got Talent and History's Greatest Mysteries. And now's your chance to catch him up close in Pittsburgh, which just so happens to be his hometown. Each performance of In Plain Slate carefully mixes comedy, magic, and mind reading to create a truly unforgettable experience. Lee pairs astonishing allusions with personal stories in a way that's made this show a beloved staple at Liberty Magic. And if you're feeling extra adventurous, you can upgrade to the Skeleton Key VIP experience for a seat right by the stage, plus an exclusive meet and greet after the show. In Plain Slate runs now through August 9th. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
What about how Pittsburgh businesses are just trying to absorb all of this? As they're taking all of this in, how would you say that like Pittsburgh restaurants are maybe adapting their business model, their menus? Because like we're talking about wines, which is really important, but like any agricultural product is subject to these same things. And like I can't imagine having perishable foods sitting at the border waiting for it to get to you.
Cheese, olives, it affects so much. I think they are trying. Some importers are kind of like front loading their orders, trying to get large shipments before new tariffs hit. I know Juan Antonio Lora at Refusilo was trying to do that.
Oh, that's such a good bar over on the north side. They have that Argentinian winery that they bring their stuff in from. So many good Malbecs and other stuff too. But oh my gosh, that Malbec.
It's fantastic. If you get a chance this summer, try the varietal called Torontis. It's perfect for summer.
Yeah, absolutely. But please tell me what Dr. Laura said.
So, it's bringing in large shipments before new tariffs hit is both risky and expensive. Dr. Laura actually said that this has been a learning curve for us, like a big learning curve, but we don't quite know what we are learning just yet.
Yeah, the lesson is still unclear.
Right. So other people are spotlighting US-made producers, which can be great, but can also be pricey to source in volume.
Yeah. I wondered how you thought about that. Like, just because I've heard people say, well, like, fine, you can't buy from Europe, like buy from America. Why doesn't that work? And I hear what they're saying, but also like, it's not the same wines. Like it's as different as the geography, right? Like, and the sun and the soil.
Right.
Like there's a lot of things that go into making a a bottle of wine. And like
Right.
what you get in California does not match what you get in the hills of Germany. Like they're just different.
Yes, the French call it terroir. It's actually a sense of place. And why can't we just pivot to US made wines, right? It's a little more complicated. There are 3 parts to this. The first thing, most domestic wines, especially small productions, sustainably made, are more expensive than their European counterparts. Simple reason being, Europe has making wine far, far, far long before we started making wine here in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, cheap wine in Europe it hits different than cheap wine in
Right.
America.
Right. So that's the expense, the cost is factor number 1. Secondly, a winemaker in Oregon who's making amazing wine, maybe even at a good cost, might just be producing a few hundred cases. They might not have enough to supply to restaurants all over the country.
Yeah.
Right. And thirdly, there's the vibe and style of the place, right? Like if you're running a Spanish tapas bar, for example, you cannot not pour Rioja. If you're running a French bistro, you cannot be pouring a Napa Valley Chardonnay or a Finger Lakes Riesling, right? You want wines from Bordeaux.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, are you still going out to eat and like trying to check out these spaces here locally? I guess I'm wondering, like, as somebody who's aware of all of these things, like how maybe you're trying to deal with it as a consumer.
So really, honestly, by showing up, I'll buy a bottle from a local wine shop, even if it's costing me a little bit more. I'll ask questions when I'll buy a bottle. I'll order the glass that the sommelier is really, really excited to talk about. I'll tip my bartender well. And a lot of it doesn't really equate with you spending more. You can follow them on social media. You can tell your friends when you have a really good experience, right? Supporting small businesses does not always have to mean that you're spending a lot. It's being a little more patient when things don't go perfectly, as these businesses are navigating so much right now.
Would you say that people in Pittsburgh, at least, are still going out to eat? Like, has this affected consumer habit yet?
So, that's really interesting because for my story for Public Source, I spoke to experts at the NRA, which is the National Restaurant Association.
Oh, that's an unfortunate acronym.
So they track this kind of stuff pretty closely. And while the soft data showed like fear and uncertainty, the hard data shows that people are still going out to restaurants. That said, people might be more thoughtful, like you might split an entree or you might be ordering a glass versus a bottle. So it's a bit of a mixed question. The hard data does show that people are still eating out, but a lot of the restaurant owners, a lot of the wine shop owners say that sales have gone down. There's no right answer to this, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess backing up to the tariff question, like we have the base level tariffs that have been in place, but we don't have the big scary numbers like 30% or God forbid 200. Right. Let's say they never get implemented, like the can gets kicked or it just turns out that they were threats, like a means to an end politically. What's the likely outcome for the restaurant industry? Like, is the damage already been done or can things go back to like something like normal?
Some damage has already been done.
Obviously, we're losing 9 o'clock wines. Like that's a big hit.
Yes. And they are really, really talented. So I hope their next chapter brings them something really good too.
Yeah.
But you cannot unspend the time, the money, the stress that has gone into preparing for these tariffs, right? Some businesses pulled out of their expansion plans in preparing for tariffs. Some other businesses, maybe they changed their ordering habits. For 9 o'clock wines, it was a breaking point, unfortunately, like you just mentioned. But if tariffs are dropped completely, many of these restaurant owners and retailers will recover. But it's the bigger ones that will recover the fastest.
Which we don't have a lot of here in Pittsburgh. So
Right. But overall, the Pittsburgh restaurant industry is resilient. The Pittsburgh food and wine scene has seen shortages, the pandemic, labor challenges, supply chain challenges. They are adaptable, but they deserve better structural support, better policy support.
Yeah. And in the meantime, as many of our spare dollars as possible. We have a great list of wine bars in our region that we would love to share with y'all. It'll be in our show notes. And Akanksha, I hope we get to go out and have a glass of wine together. This has been great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You can read Akanksha's great work at publicsource.org. Again, we will have a link in our show notes. That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you are looking for more of what's new, what's exciting, what has gotten our seal of approval over here, head over to the food and drink section on our website. That's pittsburgh.citycast.fm. We will be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Talk to you soon. My friends and I have mostly like slipped past that sweet wine stage.
Right. And there's a time and place for sweet wine.